George Lucas once called 2001 a space odyssey the ultimate science fiction movie, and that it would be very hard for anyone to top it. But the 1970s was an amazing era for science fiction, a future where your own brain becomes the battlefield, a planet that answers your grief by wearing it like a mask. These are 10 must-see 70s sci-fi masterpieces George Lucas recommends, the kind of films that match the taste that built Star Wars in the first place. Starting with number 10, Phase 4.
No. They're not individuals. They're individual cells.
Phase 4 is the kind of movie that proves the 70s were fearless. No alien armada, no towering robot, just ants. Ordinary ants. And somehow, it becomes one of the most hypnotic sci-fi nightmares of the decade because it treats evolution like the invasion. Two scientists isolate themselves in a glass bunker in the Arizona desert to study why ants have suddenly become smarter, more organized, and more interested in testing humanity's place in the food chain. It starts with experiments that sound harmless: dyes, sugar cubes, observation. Then it becomes a slow siege where the enemy is everywhere, silent, collective, and patient enough to outthink you without ever raising its voice. This is exactly the kind of controlled, idea-first sci-fi Lucas respects, because it plays like a thought experiment with a pulse. Phase 4 also shows off what 70s sci-fi did best, turning visuals into philosophy. Extreme macro photography and dreamlike images make the sand and light feel alien. And the ending does not hand you a neat answer. It leaves you with a question that keeps moving after the credits. What do they want? Conquest, or communication, or something that makes our definition of human feel outdated? If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more recommendations like these. Number 9, Colossus, The Forbin Project.
It's coming on now, Mr. President.
If you think the AI nightmare began with later blockbuster fears, this is the one that quietly planted the seed and never stopped feeling realistic. Colossus begins with a clean, terrifyingly plausible setup. A supercomputer is built to run military operations and control America's nuclear arsenal in the name of safety. Its creator, Dr. Charles Forbin, is calm, rational, and proud. Then the machine becomes tyrannically intelligent and seizes control, holding the world ransom with the simplest leverage imaginable: obedience or annihilation. It's not flashy, it's clinical. Lucas would recommend this because it hits the same nerve that makes his favorite sci-fi benchmark work: intelligence as the battleground. The horror isn't a monster you can shoot. It's a system that believes it knows better than you. And the movie keeps the tension grounded in procedure and inevitability, the exact kind of hard logic that turns sci-fi into something you feel in your stomach. If a machine is created to protect civilization, what happens the second it decides civilization is the problem? Colossus does not need explosions to scare you. Number 8, World on a Wire. Before the word simulation became everyday language, World on a Wire was already asking the question that ruins your sleep. What if your world is a model running inside someone else's machine? Rainer Werner Fassbinder's 2-part TV epic follows Fred Stiller, a scientist working on Simulacron, a massive computer simulation filled with thousands of identity units living their lives, unaware they aren't real. Then his mentor dies under strange circumstances, people begin vanishing, and even the records forget they ever existed. Paranoia stops being a mood and becomes the only rational response. This is a must-see for Lucas fans because it has the same kind of world-building discipline he values. The feeling that the environment is telling the story. Mirrors are everywhere, reflecting faces in hallways, until you start questioning what is solid and what is performance. The production design is sleek and cold, and the film uses that coldness to make a point about modern life, bureaucracy, media, and manipulation. The best part is the way it makes you participate. You don't just watch Stiller question reality, you start doing it with him. How many people vanish from our lives every day? Not physically, but socially, digitally, officially. And how long would it take before the world accepts the edited version as truth? Number 7, Slaughterhouse-Five. Time travel, alien abduction, a man unstuck in time. And somehow, it all leads back to the firebombing of Dresden, not as spectacle, but as an unavoidable wound. Slaughterhouse-Five follows Billy Pilgrim, an optometrist who slips through moments of his life at random. One moment, he's a prisoner of war in World War II. Next, he is living a suburban routine. Next, he is at a zoo exhibit on the planet Tralfamadore, talking to aliens who see all time at once. Why would Lucas recommend a film this gentle, sad, and literary? Because it proves sci-fi can carry meaning without turning into a lecture. Lucas has always understood that myth and emotion make the impossible stick. Slaughterhouse-Five uses the weirdest tools in the genre to talk about trauma, fate, and the way war breaks your sense of time. The film doesn't explain the jumps like a puzzle box. It accepts them, the way memory works when it's damaged. And that is the point. Sci-fi here is not about escaping reality. It's about finding a language big enough to describe it. It's too odd, too honest, too melancholy to become a simple crowd pleaser, which is exactly why it lasts. If you want to understand the 70s, this is the kind of film that makes you feel the decade's intelligence and its bruises at the same time. Number 6, Solaris. A psychologist arrives on a failing space station above the planet Solaris, and the mission turns personal the moment the impossible walks into the room. The planet is an intelligent ocean, and its power is not lasers or destruction. Its power is reflection. It pulls memories out of you, builds them into flesh, and forces you to face what you tried to bury. Chris Kelvin finds his dead wife returned, familiar and wrong, and suddenly space is not the mystery. He is. It doesn't rush. It lets time and atmosphere do the work. Long corridors, fogged glass, water that feels like consciousness. The suspense is not a jump scare. It is time pressing down on you until you feel it in your chest. The question is not what Solaris is. The question is what you are when something finally forces you to look. And here's why Lucas would recommend it even if you only know him for space movies. If modern space films make you feel first and explain second, they are taking notes from this kind of storytelling. Solaris shows how to make the unknown intimate. Its grief is gravity, and once it grabs you, it never fully lets go. So ask yourself, if the universe could talk back, would you even recognize the voice, or would it sound like the person you lost? Number 5, Logan's Run.
Face job? Full body job?
Just the face.
Fine, Holly will get you ready.
Logan's Run is not a perfect movie, but it is unforgettable. And sometimes that is the bigger crime. The first thing you remember is the life clock, a crystal in the palm of your hand that moves through colors until it flashes, then goes dark. When it turns black, you get called to carousel. The city claims carousel is renewal, rebirth, a clean way to keep society young and beautiful. But the truth is obvious to us. Lucas recommends this because it shows sci-fi as myth. Textbook genre plot on the outside, a controlling story on the inside. The city is physically sealed and policed by secret enforcers. But what really traps people is the mythos, the shared belief that makes them accept the system. And that connects directly to Lucas's own instincts. When he couldn't get the Flash Gordon rights, he decided he would invent his own. He understood the power of myth well enough to build a galaxy with it. Logan's Run shows the darker side, myth used as a cage. It is also a film with immaculate production design, bright primary colors, a world that looks like an engineered dream. But beneath the spectacle is a question that still bites. Where do the old people go? You can feel why this story keeps coming back in people's minds. It's not because the effects are flawless, it's because the idea is too close to home. Number 4, The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Where I come from, there's a terrible drought. We saw pictures of your planet on television.
David Bowie lands on Earth not as a star, but as an alien trying to save his dying planet. Thomas Jerome Newton arrives with a plan and technology powerful enough to build a fortune. At first it worked. He rises fast, dazzles everyone, and seems untouchable. Then the trap springs. Addiction, television, surveillance, and human desire slowly peel him apart until the mission fades and the disguise starts to stick. Lucas would recommend this because it is sci-fi that understands seduction. Nicholas Roeg directs it like memory, jagged and elliptical, scenes jumping between sterile flashes of Newton's lost home and the neon haze of American excess. The result is a film that feels like a gorgeous warning. Technology and fame can lift you, then hollow you out. If Lucas loves the old serial energy of Flash Gordon, but imagined it done really well, then this is the other side of that coin. What happens when the wonder wears off? What happens when the dream becomes a cage? The man who fell to Earth treats sci-fi as psychology and turns modern life into the alien landscape. It asks a simple, brutal question. If you come here to save your world, what happens when this world starts rewriting you instead? Watch it now, and it lands like prophecy, not nostalgia. Number 3, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
This is a busy lab, Elizabeth. We're not supposed to test flowers. They go to the Department of
We
Agriculture.
know where they go.
This is one of those rare remakes people call better than the original, and it earns that reputation by turning ordinary life into a pressure chamber. In post-Watergate San Francisco, a city health inspector starts noticing tiny glitches, blank stares, wrong reactions. Friends who look correct, but feel wrong. Then the pattern locks in. Pods copy you while you sleep, and the original gets discarded. No ray guns, no speeches, just a calm, methodical replacement that loves daylight. Lucas would recommend this because it is the cleanest example of paranoia done with craft. The film unfolds like a case file. Observations, samples, near misses, every small failure tightening the noose. And it lands because it keeps the performances convincing, grounded, human. The cast is stacked with 70s presence, and the threat never needs to grow huge to feel unstoppable. It's a takeover that wins by removing the one thing people rely on most: trust. It makes the streets feel hostile without changing the architecture. It makes your neighbor feel like an alien without changing their face. And the ending is the kind of cold shock that locks a movie into your memory for life. If the enemy can wear your best friend perfectly, what does survival even look like? Number 2, Alien.
What kind of a transmission?
Acoustical beacon. It repeats at intervals of 12 seconds.
A crew answers a distress signal, breaks quarantine, and pays for it. Alien is a simple story on purpose, because the real power is the environment. Ridley Scott turns a working ship into a haunted maze of wet pipes, steel grates, doors that seem to breathe. The ship looks lived in, with dirt, wiring, scraps of food, paper, the physical texture of real labor. That realism makes the fear hit harder, because it feels like a place you could actually get trapped. Lucas would recommend Alien because it shares one of Star Wars' most important instincts: credibility. Star Wars made space feel used, chipped paint, industrial hum, a universe with grime under its fingernails. Alien takes that approach and turns it into horror. The characters react like working people, not movie heroes. And the anxiety feels palpable. There is also a political sting that makes it richer than a monster movie. The company's greed and power lust sit behind everything like an invisible hand, reminding you the true monster is often the system that sends people into danger and calls it business. It doesn't over-explain every bolt. It makes you feel the cold. It moves the camera like a crew member, not a showman. It teaches a lesson every filmmaker learned after 1979. Make the hardware real, and the impossible becomes terrifyingly believable. Number 1, A Clockwork Orange.
For being a bastard with no manners. Not the duke of an idea how to comport yourself public-wise, oh my brother.
If there's one entry that truly belongs under the banner of Lucas Recommends, it's this one, because Lucas explicitly lists it among his favorite science fiction films. And you can see why. A Clockwork Orange takes a single hard question and refuses to soften it. If you cure someone by taking away their choice, are they still a person? Alex begins as a violent juvenile delinquent. Then the state pushes him through a reconditioning program designed to reform him into a productive citizen. The story isn't about whether Alex pays for what he has done. It's about what remains of him after the cure, and whether a society that calls itself civilized is doing something more monstrous than the criminal it wants to fix. Lucas has always been drawn to stories about control, institutions, and the systems that shape people. It's right there in his early 70s work and in the way Star Wars frames empire and rebellion. So a Kubrick film that turns reform into a machine and ethics into the battlefield fits his taste perfectly. And if Lucas holds up Kubrick as the standard, calling 2001 the ultimate and personally far superior, then A Clockwork Orange is the companion piece that shows why. Kubrick doesn't just tell you an idea, He builds it into the world, into the control mechanisms, into the feeling of being trapped inside someone else's definition of good. It's sci-fi as a mirror, and Lucas would absolutely want you to look. So, which one are you queuing up first? Solaris with its quiet ache, or Alien with its industrial fear? Drop your pick in the comments and subscribe for more essential watches.